Hello everyone, my name is Bhagia, and the reasoning behind my presentation today is to share with you a project that offers a deep dive into the unique intersection between representation and the video game industry. It's called The Perception of the Female Gender in Video Games and Its Evolution, which will be a podcast series exploring how the bodies of female characters in video games have been portrayed over time, and what it says about the norms that are embedded within our society, and especially within the video game community. Today, I'm seeking your support and your funding to bring both this rousing and informative vision to life. Why is this area important enough to warrant a podcast? Why do I need a podcast in this area? Why do you need to fund a podcast in this area? The value of video games lies within its growth. From a niche entertainment, not even that big in the United States back in the 1980s, 1990s, to growing to a cultural powerhouse within the global industry, now worth over 80 billion, with expectations of further development. This growth, however, is not one that's free without scrutiny, especially surrounding representation. Female characters in specific have often been reduced to stereotypes, which involve portrayals that over-sexualize, hyper-idolize, and even sidelight them. This podcast will delve into these harmful portrayals in order to note how they shape perceptions, spark controversies, and inspire change. Through this, I strive to bring emphasis to a topic that resonates not only with gamers, but also with those passionate about media, representation, and even gender studies. A large contribution to the portrayal for females lies within the simple fact that there's not been enough women involved within the industry, as seen within the charts included. In the past couple years, even decades, if the discrepancies wants to become even larger, there's been a large common trend within the video game scene of differences between the women and the males and the females within both the players and even the game developers themselves. What this has led to is a form of entertainment becoming a mirror of social perspectives held by many men within society, who lack the view of any alternative gender implemented within their works. There's a lack of voices from the opposite gender. Looking into the past for emphasis, dating back to as early as the 1980s, as soon as video games began to take shape and extend within the 2-bit system, there was an alignment formed with films and stories with the inclusion of a common trope of a male hero saving the female in danger. An example of this would be the extremely popular Super Mario Bros., released in 1985, which features the main character Mario rushing in to fight the bad guys, especially Bowser, to save the captured Princess Peach. Many of these titles, despite their common theme, experienced financial successes, which enabled the misrepresentation of females continuing in the following years, as individuals continued to follow the success model that games like Mario portrayed, Mario had set, as a result of a combination of social ideals and entertainment. The current climate is not a large improvement over the past. Rather, it may even be worse. While there has been great growth of women involved in the gaming industry, and female characters have seemingly begun to grow out, to advance out of the basic damsel in distress role in many games, there are still many issues with representation. The coming of the new age has been met with improvements in gaming graphics, which include motion capture, open worlds, and 3D modeling. Years ago, this wouldn't have even been possible. Yet, nowadays, the realism of games has become to an incredible scale, where it may even look like a photograph. While these technological advancements are great for gaming, they serve as an aggravation to the issue. The body types that may be portrayed within these realistic games are sometimes the most unrealistic part of the game. Females who play these games are forced to view high-resolution bodies, high-resolution bodies for women, such as the ones that are in Lollipop Chainsaw Repop and Final Fantasy, that serve as an unrealistic standard for individuals who tend to become attached to these characters through gameplay, similar to social media, where they see their favorite TikTokers who may portray unrealistic body standards. Furthermore, despite the damsel in distress trope being played out, female leads tend to be uncommon, as there is a continuation of the AAA female characters being relegated to a side character or even someone of romantic interest to the main character, such as Ada Wong in Resident Evil 4. Even Mario still produces games. Mario is still saving Princess Peach in 2024. This is emphasized by American philosopher Susan Bordo, who highlights within the body and the reproduction of femininity how gender oppression and the role that something like the female body plays within it. She goes as far as to state our contemporary aesthetic ideal for women, an ideal whose obsessive pursuit has become the central torment of many women's lives. Torment is a really strong word, but it serves as an emphasis on how dearly these portrayals affect women, and how this aesthetic ideal really changes women's lives. And gamers and developers alike must undergo a change in mindset, which is what I believe will be the solution to solving this form of torment that women may undergo, which is what I believe this podcast is to be the impetus for. While society may be too large to make a change in views in the current climate, starting with something like the gaming industry, a smaller group of individuals, a community united by the goal of enjoyment, would serve as the beginning for a larger evolution. An evolution that developers have already begun to undertake. Now discussing the future with new titles arriving in 2025, like Ghost of Yotei and Intergalactic, from Naughty Dog, that portray female main characters devoid of unnatural body types. Female representation within video games is finally beginning to show some progress. While reactions to these games have seen negative reactions from those stuck in the past, as shown by many highly liked tweets on X, many Reddit posts, many YouTube videos, I believe that through this podcast, informing those on those platforms that may not understand opposing perspectives can be achieved, allowing for further advancement within the industry. One that is truly worthy of the achievements in things such as gaming graphics upgrades. So all these achievements experienced in the past, it would finally become worthy of them. To accomplish this, I have a 3-episode plan to continue the future of gaming and representation. Within episode 1 of my plan, I plan to show the dark side of games, especially game development. In 2023, a well-known studio known as Riot Games, creator of titles such as League of Legends and Valorant, who millions and millions of players play, was subject to a controversy as a massive lawsuit was filed where many male workers were accused of horrible sexist actions towards the female developers, including, but not limited to, infrequent jokes about sex, rape, and even masturbation. For a company as big as Riot Games, this was a large shock. However, the damage done was even to the extent that a $100 million consent decree was implemented to alter the systemic sex harassment and discrimination within the studio. For a big studio such as Riot Games, I plan to utilize this scenario to highlight the climate of the industry, as the negative systemic nature of this studio is not an outlier. Rather, it is something of a commonality among many women within the industry. And I believe it serves as an example to the podcast listeners of just many of the other issues occurring within this male-dominated industry. Moving on to episode 2, after focusing on a larger scale, such as the Riot Games lawsuit, I'd hone in on a direct individual's experience by interviewing someone like Kim Swift, a prominent game developer who paved the way for females in the industry through her work on popular games such as Left 4 Dead, Portal. Swift is someone who has been a voice for over a decade and calling more women to increase their visibility within the industry, to use their voice more, to striving to do more with their work, rather than just sit there in silence. She desires, her end goal is to have little girls go out there, see what she is doing, see what others are doing in the video game industry, and be inspired and realize that their dreams are truly achievable. They can go out there, they can create a game, they can be a game head, they can be the creative director. It is her journey and her mindset that is what would lead me to ask 3 questions. What inspired this mentality? How has representation in the gaming industry changed as you have grown as a developer, as she has developed, as she's gone through the levels in her career? And how has the path to getting where you have been? How has the path been? How hard was it? Did you have many struggles when you were at lower levels? Were you struggling to get hired at many studios despite your talents? Through these questions, I strive for others, and even myself, to learn more about developers' experiences as females in order to compare them with males by engaging in a discussion and a creative discussion with someone to the status of Kim Swift. For episode 3, I would shift again away from female developers in general, and I would look towards the more prominent male developers, which may seem a bit counterintuitive, but someone like some individuals within the field recognized that change is necessary for the advancements of the field in the near future. One of those individuals is Neil Druckmann. I would do an interview with Neil Druckmann, creative director of Naughty Dog, which has stood at the pinnacle of gaming, winning multiple Game of the Year awards for games such as The Last of Us. In the past couple of years, would be someone that fits the archetype and is someone I would like to interview. The reasoning for this is due to the fact that Druckmann is not really a stranger to portraying females within his games as strong enough to move the plot along by their own accord. They don't really need to be a side character. They don't need other characters to help carry themselves along. They've been given enough personality. They've been given thought into building their character and making them feel alive. Furthermore, they're also portrayed as individuals with body types that relate to society, rather than paint an unnatural picture of it. Characters such as Abby from The Last of Us in the middle, and even the upcoming game Intergalactic coming out in 2025. While these have been met with minor criticism, are key drivers in what I believe has led to an insurgent in 2025 in releases that seem to lack a form of gender discrimination or oppression. By interviewing Druckmann, I strive to learn more about what he wishes to accomplish in order to hopefully inspire others to follow in his path, as well as gamers that may criticize his decisions, or even others to become more open-minded. This is why I would like to ask him some questions. What drove him to implement this change in style? As Druckmann within his earlier games, such as Uncharted, which did win Game of the Year, however, portrayed a damsel in distress point. All 3 of the games did. And then, I would say, what inspired this change to move towards characters like Abby and this character in Intergalactic? What inspired that change in plot points? What inspired that change in character choices? And I would also ask, what is his reaction to those who criticize his choices? His choices have been made with many critics who may criticize the characters, how they look, how they may act. But Druckmann has done really well in creating games in silence, and I just want to know how he deals with that, how he deals with those critics, and how he continues moving, and how he believes heavily in what he's doing and what his studio is doing. And what does he see for the future of gaming? And whether groups that range beyond male and female would be ever included in any of his future works? Would he be willing to become even more open-minded, or is he taking it slow? Is he trying to slowly ease everyone into this representation in order to bring it onto a bigger scale in the future? With representation in the media being a hot topic now more than ever, with growing conversations around inclusivity and, and equity, this podcast and its episodes will tap into a timely and important dialogue. The gaming industry itself is evolving, with companies revising outdated practices, creating more diverse characters. This podcast aims to document this transformation that's occurring while asking the critical questions that need to be addressed to individuals like Truckman. To accomplish this, however, your support is vital. In funding this podcast, you're not only investing in a creative work, but also a cultural conversation. Together, through this podcast, we can foster dialogue, inspire change, and celebrate progress in ways that may even extend further beyond the video game industry. Thank you for listening to my